Good morning. Today we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and Cosa Nostra.
The truth is out, and it's shaking the NBA to its core. Newly surfaced footage confirms NBA players and Cosa Nostra figures working hand in hand, fixing bets, exchanging cash, and orchestrating organized crimes. The NBA has never seen a scandal of this magnitude. The only question left now is, how high up does this connection really go? Let's get into the details. The shocking revelations. What I'm about to reveal to you will fundamentally change how you view professional basketball. On October 23, 2025, just 2 days into what should have been an exciting new NBA season, federal authorities unsealed indictments that would send shockwaves through the entire sports world. We're talking about NBA Hall of Famers, current coaches, active players, and wait for it, 4 of New York's most notorious Mafia families, all caught in what the FBI is calling one of the most elaborate criminal conspiracies in modern sports history.
Good morning. Today we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and Cosa Nostra.
This isn't some conspiracy theory cooked up in internet forums. This is real, documented, and absolutely devastating. 34 individuals were arrested in a coordinated FBI takedown spanning 11 states. Among them, Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups, a 5-time All-Star and 2024 Hall of Fame inductee, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, a 10-year veteran earning over $26 million, and former NBA player Damon Jones, who had connections to LeBron James himself. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. This wasn't just about illegal gambling. We're talking about sophisticated criminal operations involving the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families, 4 of New York's infamous 5 families. These weren't just backroom card games. These were high-tech operations using X-ray tables, rigged shuffling machines, marked cards with special contact lenses, and wireless communication systems that would make a James Bond villain jealous. Let me paint you a picture of how deep this rabbit hole goes. The investigation, dubbed Operation Royal Flush and Operation Nothing But Bet, spanned 4 years and involved thousands of hours of surveillance, wiretaps, and undercover work. The FBI reviewed over 3,000 phone calls, executed more than 24 search warrants, and collected evidence that would fill multiple courtrooms.
It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
FBI Director Kash Patel described it as mind-boggling fraud, and U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella Jr. called it one of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized. These aren't small-time operators getting caught with their hands in the cookie jar. We're talking about a sprawling criminal enterprise that defrauded victims of over $7 million, with one individual losing $1.8 million in a single night. Now, what makes this case particularly fascinating and terrifying is that we're actually dealing with 2 separate but interconnected criminal conspiracies. Think of it like 2 different tentacles of the same monster, both feeding money into organized crime operations. The first scheme was all about insider information. Between December 2022 and March 2024, these defendants exploited confidential NBA information about player injuries, lineup changes, and game plans. They weren't just betting on games, they were manipulating the outcomes of individual player performance bets, what we call prop bets. Here's how sophisticated this operation was. Players would share non-public information with co-conspirators, who would then place massive bets through online sportsbooks and casinos. They used networks of straw bettors, basically people who would place bets on their behalf to avoid detection. The success rate was around 90%, which is astronomically high and immediately suspicious to anyone who understands sports betting. The most damning example? On March 23, 2023, Terry Rozier played only 10 minutes in a Charlotte Hornets game against the New Orleans Pelicans, citing a sore right foot. His season average was 21.1 points per game. That night, he scored 5 points. Co-conspirators had placed over $200,000 in bets on his under statistics, betting that he would score less, rebound less, assist less than his projected numbers. When those bets hit, they generated tens of thousands of dollars in profit, which were allegedly delivered directly to Rozier's home, where the group counted their cash.
One example occurred on March 23, 2023, in Charlotte. Terry Rozier, an NBA player now with the Miami Heat, but at the time playing for the Hornets, allegedly let others close to him know that he planned to leave the game early with a supposed injury. Using that information, members of the group placed more than $200,000 in wagers on his under statistics. Rozier exited the game after just 9 minutes, and those bets paid out, generating tens of thousands of dollars in profit. The proceeds were later delivered to his home, where the group counted their cash.
Now, here's what makes this even more shocking. The NBA had actually investigated Rozier back in 2023 and cleared him. They looked at this exact situation and said, nothing to see here. But the FBI, they kept digging. They found text messages, betting records, financial transactions, and co-conspirators who eventually started cooperating with authorities. What the NBA missed, federal investigators uncovered in painstaking detail. But if you think the betting scheme is wild, wait until you hear about the poker operation. This is where it gets truly cinematic. Beginning in 2019, defendants orchestrated rigged poker games across the United States, in Manhattan, the Hamptons, Las Vegas, and Miami. These weren't your typical underground card games. These were sophisticated operations using technology that sounds like it came straight out of Ocean's 11.
The scheme targeted victims known as, quote, fish, who were often lured to participate in these rigged games by the chance to play alongside former professional athletes who were known as, quote, face cards.
Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones acted as what the FBI calls face cards, celebrity bait used to lure wealthy victims into games they had no chance of winning. The victims thought they were sitting down for a friendly, high-stakes game with NBA legends. What they didn't know was that everyone else at the table, the dealers, the other players, even the famous athletes, were all in on the scam. The technology they used was absolutely mind-blowing. They modified off-the-shelf shuffling machines to read cards and predict which player had the best hand. This information was relayed to an off-site operator who would send it back via cell phone to someone at the table called the quarterback, who would then secretly signal the information to other conspirators. They also used poker chip trays with hidden cameras, special contact lenses and eyeglasses that could read pre-marked cards, and even X-ray tables that could see cards face down on the table.
What you see depicted on a screen right now is an example of the X-ray table that reveals the cards. Although they are face down on the table, they can be read because of the X-ray technology.
And here's where the Mafia connection becomes critical. Members and associates of the Bonanno, Gambino, and Genovese crime families had pre-existing control over illegal poker games in New York City. When they saw the money flowing through these rigged games, they got involved, helping to organize operations, taking cuts of the profits, and, most ominously, enforcing debt collection through threats, intimidation, and violence. When victims refused to pay their gambling debts, the Mafia stepped in. We're talking about assault, extortion, and even armed robbery. In one particularly brazen incident, defendants robbed someone at gunpoint just to obtain a rigged shuffling machine. This wasn't some friendly card game that got out of hand. This was organized crime using professional athletes as weapons to steal millions from unsuspecting victims, players, and the fallout. Let's talk about the people at the center of this scandal, because understanding who they are makes this story even more devastating. These aren't fringe players or has-beens desperately trying to make money. We're talking about accomplished professionals, Hall of Famers, and rising stars who seemingly had everything to lose. Chauncey Billups is perhaps the most shocking name on the list. We're talking about Mr. Big Shot, a 5-time NBA All-Star, 2004 NBA Finals MVP, and 2024 Hall of Fame inductee. He was arrested in Portland, Oregon, at around 6 a.m. on October 23, 2025, just hours after coaching the Trailblazers in their season-opening loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Think about that for a second. He's on the bench, coaching a professional basketball game one moment and being taken into federal custody the next. According to the indictments, Billups participated in at least 2 rigged poker games, one in Las Vegas in April 2019, where victims lost $50,000, and another in October 2020. He was allegedly paid $50,000 for his appearances, essentially selling his celebrity to help criminals rob people. The NBA immediately placed him on indefinite administrative leave, with assistant coach Tiago Splitter taking over as interim head coach. Terry Rozier presents an equally troubling case, but for different reasons. He's a 10-year NBA veteran who signed a massive contract and should have been set for life. According to reports, he's made approximately $160 million over his career, and yet he allegedly risked everything for what amounts to about $13,000 in a single gambling scheme. The math simply doesn't make sense unless you understand the compulsive nature of gambling addiction or the pressure that can come from getting involved with the wrong people. Rozier was arrested in Orlando, Florida at around 6 a.m. staying in a team hotel before a Miami Heat game. He didn't even play in the Heat season opener the night before, listed as DNP-CD, did not play, coach's decision. Now we know why. His lawyer, Jim Trusty, claims this is a revived non-case and that Rozier was previously cleared by the NBA after self-reporting his involvement. But federal prosecutors clearly disagree, and they have evidence to back up their claims. Damon Jones might be the most intriguing figure in this entire saga because he's the only person charged in both schemes. This is a man who played 11 seasons in the NBA, won a championship with the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers as an assistant coach, and served as an unofficial advisor to the Los Angeles Lakers, where he had direct access to LeBron James. In the betting scheme, Jones allegedly sold insider information about Player 3, widely believed to be LeBron James himself. The indictment details specific instances. On February 9, 2023, Jones allegedly texted someone, "Get a big bet on Milwaukee," before a Lakers-Bucks game, referencing LeBron's undisclosed absence due to illness. Those bets apparently cashed for over $100,000. In another instance, on January 15, 2024, he allegedly leaked information about another Lakers player's injury, leading to more successful bets on reduced minutes. But Jones wasn't just involved in the betting side. He also acted as a face card in the rigged poker games, using his celebrity status and NBA connections to lure victims into games they couldn't win. This dual involvement makes him uniquely positioned in this case and potentially facing some of the harshest penalties. Then there's Jontay Porter, who serves as a sort of prequel to this entire scandal. Porter was banned from the NBA for life in April 2024 and pleaded guilty in July 2024 to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. His case involved manipulating his own performance in at least 2 games during the 2023-24 season, deliberately underperforming to help co-conspirators win prop bets. He's awaiting sentencing in December 2025, facing up to 20 years in prison.
Other co-conspirators were previously charged for their roles in the scheme, including former NBA player Jontay Porter.
What's particularly chilling about Porter's involvement in the 2025 case is that he was allegedly threatened because of pre-existing gambling debts. The indictment suggests that members of this criminal enterprise used those debts as leverage to force him to provide insider information about Toronto Raptors games. This is how these things spiral out of control. A player gets in over his head with gambling debts, and suddenly he's being extorted by people with connections to organized crime. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, La Cosa Nostra. For those unfamiliar, La Cosa Nostra, literally our thing in Italian, is the American branch of the Sicilian Mafia. We're talking about organized crime families that have been part of American history for over a century, with roots going back to the early 1900s. The 5 families of New York, Bonanno, Colombo, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese, have traditionally controlled various criminal enterprises: loan sharking, drug trafficking, labor racketeering, and most relevant to our story, illegal gambling. These aren't street-level criminals. These are sophisticated criminal organizations with hierarchies, territories, and enforcement mechanisms that have survived decades of law enforcement pressure.
Bringing 4 of the 5 families together in a single indictment is extraordinarily rare. It reflects how deep and how far this investigation reached, and the skill and the persistence it took to get here.
What makes this case particularly significant is that 13 of the 34 defendants are identified as members or associates of these crime families. That's nearly 40% of everyone charged. And according to NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, bringing 4 families together in a single indictment is extraordinarily rare and reflects how deep and how far this investigation reached. The Mafia's role in this operation was multifaceted. They provided protection for the games, enforced debt collection through threats and violence, took 20 to 30% cuts of the profits, and helped launder money through shell companies and cryptocurrency. When someone refused to pay their gambling debts, the Mafia didn't send polite reminder letters. They sent associates who made very clear what would happen if payment wasn't received. One particularly striking detail from the indictments: defendants allegedly committed a gunpoint robbery specifically to obtain a rigged shuffling machine. Think about the implications of that. These weren't just criminals running a scam. They were willing to commit violent felonies to maintain and expand their operations. The NBA's response was swift, but many are questioning whether it was sufficient. Within hours of the arrests, the league issued a statement: "We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains our top priority. We are in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups are being placed on immediate leave from their teams, and we will continue to cooperate with the relevant authorities." But here's where things get complicated. The NBA had previously investigated Rozier in 2020 2023 for the exact same incident that's now part of the federal indictment, and they cleared him. So either the NBA's investigation was inadequate or the FBI uncovered evidence that wasn't available to league investigators. Either way, it doesn't look good. Commissioner Adam Silver has scheduled an emergency summit for October 28 with team owners, the NBA Players Association, and betting partners like DraftKings and FanDuel. The agenda: enhanced monitoring of prop bets, mandatory gambling education, stricter insider access rules, and potentially biometric injury reporting to prevent the kind of manipulation we saw in the Rozier case. The timing couldn't be worse for the NBA. This scandal broke just 2 days into the 2025-26 season, when every team was playing their first games and excitement should have been at its peak. Instead, the league is dealing with headlines about Mafia connections, rigged games, and compromised integrity. Early reports suggest betting handle dropped approximately 15% on opening night, with some fans vowing boycotts until the league addresses these issues more transparently. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from shock to cynicism. On Reddit's RNBA forum, one highly upvoted comment read, "Damn, Chauncey just got elected to the HOF last year. I wonder if they would take him out if he is found guilty." Another user wrote, "If a coach is found guilty, I really hope they stop pushing gambling in the NBA as hard as they're doing now." The sentiment was consistent. Fans feel betrayed by a league that has aggressively promoted sports betting while apparently failing to adequately police its own personnel. Historical context and future implications. To truly understand the magnitude of this scandal, we need to place it in historical context. This isn't the first time the sports world has been rocked by gambling controversies involving organized crime, but it might be the most sophisticated operation we've ever seen. Let's go back to 1954 and Jack Molinas, the original NBA gambling kingpin. Molinas was a Columbia University star who was drafted 4th overall by the Fort Wayne Pistons. But even before his NBA career began, he had been fixing college basketball games for New York's Genovese crime family. When the NBA discovered he was betting on his own games and influencing teammates to shave points, he received a lifetime ban in January 1954, the first in league history. Molinas pleaded guilty to conspiracy to bribe and was sentenced to 10 to 16 years in prison, serving 3. But the story doesn't end there. He was murdered in 1975 in Hollywood, California, in what was believed to be a mob hit over unpaid gambling debts. His case inspired the NBA's strict anti-gambling policy and set the precedent for lifetime bans that still exist today. Then we have the 1950s and 1960s point-shaving scandals that rocked college basketball. The Genovese and Lucchese crime families recruited approximately 20 college players from schools like CCNY and NYU to shave points for mob bookies. These scandals influenced the NBA's early integrity rules and demonstrated how organized crime could infiltrate sports at the highest levels.
And so yes, on one level it's shocking because you just can't believe, especially a name like Chauncey Billups, if you've even just casually followed the NBA, you know that name. He's 50 years old, a great career, a lot with the Detroit Pistons. Now a head coach, he's the leader of the team, and now he is alleged to have been involved, as Tara was saying, in this incredible scandal.
But perhaps the closest parallel to our current situation is the 2007 Tim Donaghy referee scandal. Donaghy, an NBA referee, bet on at least 57 games he officiated, including playoff games. He shared insider information with gamblers and, in one infamous case, allegedly helped the NBA fix the 2002 Lakers-Kings Western Conference Finals Game 6 to extend the series for television revenue. Donaghy was sentenced to 15 months in prison and resigned amid an FBI raid. League-wide viewership dipped 10%, and conspiracy theories about rigged games exploded online. The NBA hired an ex-prosecutor to review officiating procedures, fired 2 referees, and implemented strict monitoring systems, including anonymous hotlines for reporting suspicious activity. What makes the 2025 scandal different and potentially more damaging is the breadth of involvement. We're not talking about one rogue referee or a handful of college players. We're talking about a Hall of Fame coach, multiple current and former NBA players, and direct involvement from 4 organized crime families in a scheme that defrauded victims of over $7 million. Let's talk about what these defendants are actually facing, because the legal jeopardy here is absolutely staggering. The charges include conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, illegal gambling, Hobbs Act robbery, and extortion. Some defendants face up to 20 years per count, and with multiple counts stacked together, we're talking about potential sentences that could effectively be life in prison for some individuals. Wire fraud conspiracy alone carries up to 20 years. Money laundering adds another 20 years. For the defendants charged in the poker scheme with Mafia ties, RICO enhancements could add even more time. And because this involves organized crime, federal prosecutors are going to push for the maximum sentences to send a message. Billups faces up to 20 years if convicted on his wire fraud and money laundering charges. His Hall of Fame status, his $7 million per year coaching contract, his entire legacy, all of it is at risk. Even if he's acquitted, the damage to his reputation may be irreparable. Rozier is looking at similar charges with the same potential penalties. He's made $133 million over his NBA career, but if convicted, he could lose everything, including the $26.6 million remaining on his current contract. The Miami Heat could void his contract immediately, and he would almost certainly receive a lifetime ban from the NBA, just like Jonte Porter. Damon Jones might face the harshest consequences because he's charged in both schemes. With dual involvement in the betting conspiracy and the poker ring, he's looking at potentially 40+ years in federal prison if convicted on all counts. He has no current NBA affiliation, which means he doesn't have the institutional support that might come with being an active employee, and his unique position as the only defendant charged in both indictments makes him extremely valuable to prosecutors, which could work in his favor if he decides to cooperate. This brings us to an important point: cooperation deals. Looking at Jonte Porter's case as a precedent, we know that federal prosecutors are willing to negotiate reduced sentences in exchange for testimony against co-conspirators. Porter pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and is awaiting sentencing in December 2025, facing up to 20 years but likely receiving a much lighter sentence, possibly probation, due to his cooperation. The Mafia defendants face even more serious charges. 13 members and associates of organized crime families are charged with various RICO violations, which can carry life sentences. Names like Thomas Tommy Juice, Gilardo from the Luquez family, and Ernest Aiello from the Bonanno family appear in the indictments, along with charges for extortion, robbery, and violence used to enforce gambling debts. The media response to this scandal has been absolutely explosive, and for good reason. This is the kind of story that transcends sports and enters the realm of national news. Major outlets from CNN to the New York Times to international publications like The Guardian have all run extensive coverage. CNN's legal analyst Ailey Honig described the indictments as likely to rock the NBA, predicting severe reputational damage due to the Mafia involvement. The New York Times ran live updates throughout the day, with reporters calling it a situation that casts a pall over professional basketball. What's particularly interesting is the criticism ESPN has received for their coverage, or lack thereof. While other major networks carried the FBI press conference live, ESPN initially delayed their coverage, leading media critic John Ziegler to blast them, sign of the times, ESPN not taking the FBI indictment live. This criticism highlights the uncomfortable relationship between sports media and gambling companies. ESPN has its own sports betting platform, ESPN Bet, and they quietly removed the ESPN Bet logo from their tickers during scandal coverage.
The idea that something that you want to be able to trust, right? The whole foundation of sports is that what you're watching is real and that there's no funny business, no shady dealings going on. And if that comes crumbling down, then potentially, clearly, that's a huge issue for in terms of any sport.
So the question everyone's asking, is this the downfall of the NBA? And the honest answer is probably not, but it's certainly the league's biggest integrity crisis in decades. Let's look at the fundamentals. The NBA generates over $10 billion in annual revenue, has global superstars like LeBron James and Stephen Curry, and reaches approximately 1.5 billion international viewers. That kind of institutional strength doesn't collapse overnight because of one scandal, even a scandal this massive. History shows us that sports leagues are remarkably resilient. After the Tim Donaghy scandal in 2007, viewership initially dropped 10%, but the league eventually recovered and implemented reforms that actually strengthened its integrity systems. The 2004 Malice at the Palace, where Ron Artest and other players charged into the stands and fought fans, resulted in 317 games worth of suspensions and an $11 million fine. Yet the league survived and even thrived afterward. When Donald Sterling's racist remarks were exposed in 2014, the NBA immediately imposed a lifetime ban and forced him to sell the Los Angeles Clippers for $2 billion. Many thought it would be a devastating blow to the league's image. Instead, Commissioner Adam Silver's decisive action was praised, and the league's revenue actually grew 50% in the following years as they pivoted towards social justice initiatives. But this situation is different different in some crucial ways. The legalization of sports gambling has fundamentally changed the landscape. When something is available at the touch of a button on everyone's phone, and when the league itself is aggressively promoting betting partnerships, the potential for corruption expands exponentially. The NBA's relationship with gambling companies like DraftKings and FanDuel is worth over $1 billion, creating a conflict of interest that's hard to ignore. Early reports suggest betting handle dropped approximately 15% on NBA games immediately following the scandal, with some fans vowing boycotts. Crisis management expert Christopher Morse warned, "You can't promote prop bets, then act surprised when scandals emerge." However, there's a silver lining that shouldn't be ignored. The fact that legal betting platforms flagged these suspicious activities is actually evidence that the system can work. When Rozier's prop bets showed unusual patterns, DraftKings caught it and reported it. That's the kind of transparency that simply didn't exist in the underground gambling world of previous decades. So where does the NBA go from here? Commissioner Adam Silver has already scheduled an emergency summit for October 28th with team owners, the Players Association, and betting partners. But here's the uncomfortable truth. As long as sports betting is legal and accessible, there will always be people who try to exploit the system. You can build all the safeguards you want, but human nature and the temptation of easy money will always create risk.
Yeah, I think the thought process, like before, at least when I was growing up, it was gambling was for people that were in the corner, shady in the shadows. You had to get a bookie, that type of thing, kind of like movie stuff to be growing up in Arizona. And then I get into the league, it's illegal, it becomes legal, and you have these meetings with the NFLPA. They come in, they say you cannot bet on NFL games. At the time when it first started, it was like, you can't bet on anything. You can't even have the app on your phone.
The broader implications extend beyond basketball. The NFL has already seen multiple players suspended for gambling violations. Calvin Ridley got a full year, Jamison Williams received 6 games, and others have faced similar penalties. College sports are grappling with whether to allow Division I athletes to bet on professional sports. Every major American sports league is watching this NBA case closely because they know it could happen to them. As this case moves through the federal court system, several critical questions remain unanswered. Who else is involved? The indictments reference multiple unnamed co-conspirators, including an NBA coach since 2021 and player 3, widely believed to be LeBron James, though he hasn't been charged with any wrongdoing. Are there more arrests coming? The FBI has indicated that investigations are ongoing, which suggests we haven't seen the full scope yet. What happens to the Hall of Fame? Chauncey Billups was just inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2024. If he's convicted, does the Hall of Fame remove him? There's no precedent for this situation, and it raises uncomfortable questions about how we honor athletes who later commit serious crimes. How deep does the Mafia involvement go? 4 of New York's 5 families were implicated in just this one operation. If organized crime has infiltrated NBA-adjacent gambling to this extent, what else are they involved in? Are there similar schemes in other sports? Can fan trust be restored? This might be the most important question of all. When people start questioning whether what they're watching is real, whether that missed shot or early exit was genuine or part of a betting scheme, the fundamental appeal of sports begins to crumble. The NBA will need to work extremely hard to rebuild that trust. What we're witnessing is a watershed moment in sports history. This isn't just another gambling scandal. It's a complex web of corruption that connects professional athletes, Hall of Fame coaches, and some of the most notorious organized crime families in American history. The FBI has called it mind-boggling fraud involving tens of millions of dollars, and they're absolutely right.
Your winning streak has ended. Your luck has run out. Violating the law is a losing proposition, and you can bet on that.
The arrests of Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones represent just the tip of the iceberg. With 34 defendants charged and investigations ongoing, we're likely to see more developments in the coming months. Trials won't begin until 2026, but the damage to the NBA's reputation is already done. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. If you like this video, make sure to check out the recommended videos by clicking the cards on your screen.